Hello there, my name's Jack, the snack that smiles back. Welcome to Mick. Today's video was all about relationship advice. As a young adult who's dated things, I have some experience and I'd like to share it. Now remember, if you enjoyed today's content or have a blast, like the video so you can help out the channel. But let's not dilly-dally any longer. It's time to sit back, relax, grab your favorite cup of tea and your best Spotify background music playlist, and let's get started with the stories. I'll admit, this next story feels like it belongs in petty revenge. Am I the a-hole for leaving the US? I have married my soon-to-be ex-wife in 2014 after a relationship of 6 years. She had a kid that I helped to raise. She is American and I'm originally not from the US. It looks like everything is heading towards a divorce because she was a piece of smack who cheated. She used to work a mid-tier job that was just enough to cover basic necessities and some leisure for her and her kid. When we married, she decided to stop working because it wasn't worth it. And I have consulted some lawyers regarding our situation, and they all told me I'm looking for a huge 40% or something of my properties going to her, as well as alimony and maybe even child support, even though I didn't adopt the kid. Honestly, I would rather die or live in a mud hut than pay my hard-earned money to her. What I was thinking was just going back to my country where most of my business is anyways, and selling my few properties in the US and not paying her a dime. I have kinda made up my mind, but I still want to hear from other people. Look, I come across many cheating stories or reactions to people cheating on them. Some are funny, some are crazy, some are rather petty, and some are just outright too far. Now, for reasons I'll explain, I feel like this guy is getting a bit close to the too far part of the spectrum. On one hand, I absolutely agree to the idea that, well, look, you made all that money yourself, you should get to keep all that money. But I do have to check in with the fact, did the woman decide to be a stay-at-home mum because of you? As in, did you endorse this idea? Did you encourage it? Did you support it? Or did you at least make it clear to her that she was doing this from her own choices and that this decision should only be coming from the convenience for her and not at the burden of yours? Because look, reality is there are some women out there, well, partners in general, who will, in a way, begin to leech off their partner's own financial success. One, because it's easier, and two, they probably hate their career choice by now anyway. But also there is the kid to take into account here. How old is the kid exactly? Is he at an age where he needs a parent at home with him at all times to supervise? We can argue that the mother didn't want him to be in daycare because she couldn't afford it, but by how it sounds with this guy's financial wealth, I think they could afford it. Though it's possible maybe the kid had some mental difficulties that could be affecting his ability to go to after-school care or daycare. Again though, that is just assuming. There is no evidence he's mentioned here about that, and I think he would've if there was. I'm also assuming that your soon-to-be ex-wife is a somewhat morally good person, which I know is an ironic thing to be believing when they cheated on you. But if we just look at it straight from what you've said in this info, from this story, I think it's very clear that you have all the right and freedom to ditch this woman. She's likely a single mother who's really gotten with you for your wealth. Again, that's assuming her Machiavellian nature, but reality is it's definitely a possibility. There are a lot of hypergamous women out there. But I also question how she would be if she was dumb enough to cheat on you when you were clearly her lifeboat of financial support. So look, I'm gonna say, you are the a-hole to do this, but I also think you're very justified to punish her this way. I understand it's rather cruel to leave a single mother alone with a kid and no financial support. But I also believe that as a parent, you should be more smarter than to just resort to relying on someone else for your financial support. From the sounds of it, you guys should have both made some prenup or actual understanding between each other as to what entails your financial partnership. Yes, she should stick to the responsibility of having some sort of financial support for herself, and to leave her job just because you're earning a bunch of money was definitely a dumb move. But if you made no effort yourself to point this out to her, regardless of how defensive she would get, that just made you an enabler of this behavior. And so I kind of now don't think you really have an excuse to be upset about her doing this. It's not really her fault that you made her life so comfortable for her. But it's also definitely not your responsibility to ensure her finances are in order because she betrayed your relationship. So I guess I'll fix myself up and say you are an a-hole to leave the mother and child like this in this state, but you also have every right and approval from me to do it. It's a weird situation, but let's see what other people think. Not the a-hole. She cheated, so frick her and she can pee in a pot for all it's worth. Get the frick out of here and go live your life. Not the a-hole. From what you describe, she sounds like a gold digger and a sponge. Honestly, you're the a-hole because that kid you helped to raise is caught in the middle. You'll be abandoning him or her with no father and leaving the mum with no means to support the kid. That makes you a gold star a-hole. But helping raise the kid was generosity and kindness of me. It wasn't my duty. How old is this kid? According to your post, you've been with this woman for 12 years. That means the child must have been fairly young when you entered their life. Are you saying over the course of more than a decade you never bonded or became a parent to the child? Adoption isn't the only way to be a dad. Exactly. You took that duty on. You took on the responsibility. The kid probably loves you, sees you as their dad. But maybe after 12 years raising her, you have no attachment and no interest in the child's well-being. That says a lot about you. The wife shouldn't have cheated. She can get a job and support herself since her putty cat clearly supports other peepees. Ooh. Not the a-hole. Might be selfish, but I'd run too. I do think it's a good point that's been made about how the fact that over 12 years, surely this guy would have bonded with the child to the point where it can be considered a legitimate father-daughter/son relationship. However, I disagree that this makes him an a-hole for wanting to leave the relationship, regardless. I agree that he has the responsibility now of being that child's mentor in a way as a parent, but I also don't think he should have to stick by his partner, well now ex, just because of it. You can still have a relationship with a child without having to be with or support the ex anymore. I will agree that it would be wrong of him just to ditch the mother and child completely without actually having some sort of still connection to the child. But I also think any hurt feelings he has that causes him to want to just distance from them both entirely is really purely due to the actions of the ex-wife. I think this is another example of people mispointing the blame, hating on the guy for leaving for being cheated on rather than on the woman for cheating. Regardless of what he's leaving behind, it's because of what she did that he's leaving. Anyway, what do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for asking my husband to compromise re his extramarital encounters? This is a long one, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for it, but here goes. My husband and I are both bisexual. We've made the other aware from day one, when our relationship status was just freaking. We also weren't looking for anything serious at the time. Fast forward 3 months later, it blossoms into a romantic relationship and we start officially dating. I'm so in love with him. I cannot imagine having kinky times with someone else without him. He? Not so much. I've asked for concessions, such as STI test results from potential partners and asking for no overnights or all-nighters. He agreed that these were reasonable requests, but failed to adhere to them. When I'd be upset about it, he'd say that I knew from day one that he was bi, and this shouldn't be an issue. I fold until the next time. We broke up for 2 months before we got married. He played with other men during this time. Shortly after we got back together, I have an outbreak of genital herpes that he learns he not also has asymptomatically, but had given to me. I can't be angry about how he got it, as we weren't together at the time. Time passes. We marry, yet no compromise has ever been reached re fricking men. I continue to ask for concessions and compromise and don't feel I'm being unreasonable. I'm not asking him to stop completely. I do find it nice, but I've also suffered mentally and physically from it. All I'm asking is for him to leave the way he speaks, that his family is number one, that I am number one, that my feelings matter, by providing proof that I'll be safe, and by sticking to a time limit of not all goddamn night and not coming home after sunrise. Am I losing myself? Am I being biphobic or being controlling? Should I just get over it and let him do as he needs? Everything else in our relationship is damn near perfect, except this one thing. And I'm completely eating myself over this. Edit because it's been mentioned several times. In our first message thread to each other, I'd mentioned that I'm no good at monogamy. He'd agreed he was looking for something similar, for now. Remember, we were just fricking. When we started dating and fell in love, my behavior changed. I could no longer fathom searching elsewhere for that gratification. I feel it's my own fault for thinking, within a committed relationship, that the sentiment would be mutual. It was apparently not. Yes, I have the same freedom to seek experiences with women. Women do not generally like me, but having the freedom and being willing to make the other partner not feel like smack writhing that freedom are two different things. I do need therapy to either get over my own sense of self-importance or be able to rationalize throwing away near perfection outside of this one issue. I'm kind of stumped with this one, so I'm gonna read the comments first and see if there's any better insight I can go off of myself. Because as tough this issue seems, it really just comes down to respect. From how you've explained it, it really sounds like he's just not respecting what you want. I think it's good that you've been compromising the fact that he is adamant about wanting to be slightly open in that regard. And I also think it's rather rude of him to not adhere to those things. Like, that should be mutually understood when you want to be in a more committed relationship, that you respect each other's needs and boundaries. It sounds like he's being disrespectful just to get his socks off, which, yeah, it completely doesn't excuse it. But anyway, let's see what other people say, because they might offer better insight than I can right now. Everyone sucks here. He more than you, of course. First, being bisexual is unrelated to whether or not one is exclusive. But even if he wants an open relationship without boundaries around preventing the spread of STIs is an awful idea. You're an a-hole for marrying him when you knew he was a terrible partner and not safe to be with. But you were more of an a-hole to yourself than anyone else. Anyhow, you know what sort of person he is. A selfish one who isn't willing to agree to any reasonable boundaries in a relationship whatsoever. And it doesn't count as agreement unless he actually lives by those agreements. What do you plan to do about it? Not the a-hole. And being bisexual doesn't mean you need to have kinky times with several different people, so I don't know what the hell he's talking about here. Yeah, that was the one thing that pointed out to me most, was how this guy is bisexual, but if anything, he seems to come across as more so polyamorous, or wanting to be in an open relationship. After all, your sexuality doesn't define your actual hormonal drive. And so I have to think that maybe he's just taking advantage of your rather timid enforcement. Not the a-hole. And what the frick? Your husband is the reason that bi people are treated like smack, even among the LGBT community. Being bi does not mean every relationship is an open one, and being in an open relationship does not mean it's a free-for-all and your partner can't have boundaries. You just have a terrible husband. Sorry. Source: bisexual woman, married to a bisexual man, not currently in an open marriage, but have been in open relationships before meeting my husband. Okay, I do apologize if I come off wrong in this post, as I am not very familiar with open relationships. However, to me, it doesn't really sound like your partner is really committed to this marriage. He always ignores your extremely reasonable requests, and then gaslights when you're upset. If he were really committed to you, he would abide by your requests with no questions asked. He is putting your health at risk every time he doesn't abide by your testing requests. He is putting your sense of security in the back seat whenever he stays out late or has people over for the night. If he continuously disrespects you like this, then he is showing you that he really doesn't care about you or your marriage. I'm sorry to say that because I know it hurts. You're definitely not the a-hole. He needs to start realizing that you matter more than any hookup, and if he doesn't start prioritizing you, then you need to move on for your own good. Not the a-hole. I don't think you're being unreasonable at all. You've given him a lot of more freedom than most married couples, and he doesn't seem to be grateful. That's on him. Not the a-hole, but you kinda got what you asked for. It seems to me you both got together in the agreement that you are both open to other encounters. Your feelings changed, and you are no longer comfortable with that. I think he should be loyal to you, and you seem reasonable, but at the same time, I think you get what you ask for. I would break up and move on. I do have to agree with this person's point. I think this relationship is an excellent point, and unfortunately, sometimes people change. Their needs change, their wants and desires change in a relationship. But I think unlike other people in relationships where when they have their needs changed, they usually resort to enforcing it on the partner, shaming them, guilting them into having to do it. A great example is women who suddenly want to have kids and so they pressure their husband for kids, or pressure their husband for marriage when for years they've been saying they're not interested in marriage at all. In your case though, I feel like you've been very clear and respectful about his needs, desires as well. You've also displayed a compromise, that you accept that he may still want to do this stuff, and so you've laid out the groundwork that he can follow to ensure that he is doing that freely, but also respecting you as a partner. Unfortunately, he's not aware that he's hit a goldmine of a partner, and, well, you should go see someone else, I think. You're not the a-hole, and you deserve someone who can treat you with the incredible level of respect you managed to give to others. Hey, you! So it looks like you've made it to the end of today's video. So, if you're looking at my face, that means you liked the video, so why not prove it and let us all know by liking the video. It really helps the channel out, and I'd really like to one day be making quality content over quantity content, so if you'd like to help me out on that, please sure to subscribe, and click the notification bell so you can always be updated on the latest of our videos. I have a lot of fun sharing these stories with you, letting you know my opinions on them, and reading yours as well. I do read the comments. I don't always comment, but I read the comments. So if you have any feedback, or if there's anything you'd like to talk about, be sure to do so down below. But with that also said, it's the end of the video, which means you're done with me now, so I'm heartbroken, but I will never forget you. I'll see you next time. Bye!